Those were the chilling words that shattered the fragile peace of a cheap family restaurant. Words that did not just price a life, but also ripped apart the fragile bond between two men whose destinies had been tied together for years. When Gao Ming, Gao Tu's father, sat across from Shen Wenling, his eyes glistened with opportunism. His voice was steady, calculated, and merciless. "If you want us to have an abortion," he said with a hollow smile, "you have to give me 10 million. Not a penny less." The restaurant was noisy with the clatter of chopsticks and chatter of strangers. Yet in that moment, the world seemed to fall silent. For Shen Wenling, seeing Gao Tu walk into the restaurant was like water poured onto burning charcoal. The flames of his fury died down, but the thick, choking smoke of bitterness lingered in his chest, stealing his breath. This was not the Gao Tu he remembered. The once bright young man now looked fragile, emaciated, and pale. His thin body trembled slightly as he walked, and without his glasses, his eyes once hidden shone too brightly, like two vulnerable windows into a soul that had suffered too long. He walked slowly, hesitantly, like a frightened rabbit. Every step carried humiliation, fear, and the silent weight of resignation. Shen Wenling's heart tightened painfully. "It seems he really won't go back with me," he thought, and that bitter realization twisted his expression into something harsher than before. Despite his wealth and power, Shen Wenling had driven several hours just to see him. His cuffs were smudged from the greasy table, his usually immaculate suit slightly wrinkled. For the first time, he felt nervous, not as though he was meeting a former employee, but as though he were the one being interviewed, desperate for approval. On the other side, Gao Tu's heart felt unbearably heavy. Each step toward Shen Wenling felt like walking toward death. His stomach cramped from the anxiety, his breath shallow with dread. The broken glasses he had left behind in the earlier argument meant he couldn't see clearly, but even through blurred vision, he instantly recognized the alpha sitting in his favorite restaurant. That man had always stood out like a pearl among dull stones. Even in this humble place, Shen Wenling radiated an aura that was sharp, refined, and impossible to ignore. But Gao Tu didn't want to face him. Not like this. Not when his heart was burdened by years of secret love, now twisted by shame and despair. Still, he walked forward. Because all roads, no matter how long, no matter how painful, eventually led him back to Shen Wenling, the alpha who had unknowingly held his heart captive for so long. "Boss Shen," Gao Ming greeted with a flattering smile, masking his greed with politeness. "Sorry, this guy was delayed for a while." "Really?" Shen Wenling asked, his cold eyes fixed on Gao Tu's pale face. But Gao Tu stayed silent. His lips pressed tightly together, his eyes lowered, refusing to meet Shen Wenling's gaze. Awkward laughter filled the space between them, as Gao Ming rushed to smooth over the tension. "Yes, truly sorry." Yet deep down, Gao Ming knew. He knew why Shen Wenling had endured waiting in such a cheap place. He was certain Shen Wenling already suspected the truth, that his son carried the alpha's child. That truth was the only reason a man as proud and untouchable as Shen Wenling would lower himself to wait here. And then, Gao Ming struck. "Gao Tu is pregnant," he declared, his tone sharp and deliberate. "And the baby is yours." The words landed like thunder. Gao Tu's ears buzzed, his body stiffening in shock. Even though he had already known, even though he had prepared himself, hearing it spoken aloud in front of Shen Wenling made his heart crumble. He looked up instinctively, his blurred gaze locking onto Shen Wenling. For a brief, fragile second, hope flickered. Would he care? Would he soften? But the alpha's face remained cold, unreadable. As if hearing that a former subordinate was carrying his child was no more significant than hearing about the weather. That was Shen Wenling's strength. His ability to remain composed, even in the face of catastrophe. A strength that now cut into Gao Tu like a blade. This was not the moment he had once dreamed of. As a student, he had fantasized about sitting here with Shen Wenling, equal at last, sharing a meal in his favorite restaurant. Now, reality was a cruel parody of that dream. Shen Wenling was here. Yes, but his expression carried nothing but suspicion, distrust, and quiet contempt. If you want us to have an abortion, Gao Ming's voice slithered into the silence. You have to give me 10 million. Not a penny less. The words were knives. Gao Tu's throat burned. His eyes stung with unshed tears. His lower abdomen ached fiercely, as if the innocent baby inside him could feel the insult of being reduced to a price tag. He wanted to scream, to protest, to protect the fragile life inside him, but no words came. The blood in his veins roared in his ears, drowning out Shen Wenling's low, steady reply. His body shook, his hands trembling as he finally pushed his chair back. The loud scrape of wood against tile echoed across the room. Sorry, he whispered hoarsely, his voice breaking. I need to go to the bathroom. And then he stumbled away, desperate to escape. Shen Wenling's heart lurched. He wanted to rise, to follow, to grab Gao Tu by the shoulders and demand answers. But before he could move, Gao Ming blocked his path. Let him go, the older man said smoothly. It's cruel to talk about aborting an Omega's child in front of him. Why don't we discuss the terms before he comes back? For a rare moment, Shen Wenling faltered. His cold mask cracked just slightly as he glanced toward the path Gao Tu had taken, torn between anger, confusion, and something deeper, something dangerously close to desperation. But Gao Ming's words coiled around him like a trap. The conversation was not just about money. It was about power, about manipulation, about whether Shen Wenling would allow the life inside Gao Tu to be reduced to a bargaining chip. This was no ordinary dinner. This was a battle of hearts, pride, and survival. Shen Wenling, cold yet conflicted. Gao Tu, fragile yet unyielding. And Gao Ming, ruthless enough to sell his own son's child for 10 million. But what would Shen Wenling choose? Would he let the child be erased, silenced before it could even breathe? Or would he finally break through his icy composure and fight for the fragile bond between him and Gao Tu? The answer, dear listener, is what will decide the future of all three lives. If you were Shen Wenling, would you pay the 10 million? Or protect Gao Tu and the life inside him, no matter the cost? And that is where the night leaves us, at a crossroads of love, betrayal, and survival. Gao Ming's greed has set a cruel price. Gao Tu's heart is breaking under the weight of secrets. And Shen Wenling stands frozen, torn between pride and the life he may already be too late to protect. What would you do in his place? Would you pay the 10 million or fight for Gao Tu and the fragile life inside him? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one. And if this story moved you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you never miss the next heartbreaking twist from the ABO Desire series, because sometimes the price of love is everything.